Hey everyone, welcome to another video for the Final Down NFL podcast with me, Jim, and Denver Dave. We're here to talk about, well, in this video, Mitchell Trubisky. Last video, we talked about three massive trades with, well, not trades, but contracts with Aaron Rodgers, Carson Wentz, and Russell Wilson. But today we're going to talk about the free agency period beginning and my team taking Mitch Trubisky from the Buffalo Bills. So he signed a 2-year deal, $14.2 million. For those that don't know, that works out to $7.1 million a year. That's my maths working. In a deal that could max out at $27 million. Spoiler alert, it won't get to that point.
It could.
It won't.
I mean,
it won't.
Depends on what the incentives are.
Yeah, well, get to a Super Bowl,
it's
maybe.
To be ordinary and get it's to be ordinary and to get to a 50% completion ratio, then it's going to be fine.
Well, if we look at his sample size, just in Chicago, because Buffalo doesn't really count, he got some dribs and drabs starts that, well, plays there. Yeah, so 4 years in Chicago, 64% completion percentage, 10,600 odd yards. What was it? 64 touchdowns to 37 receptions. Stats are nice. Stats aren't bad, but he doesn't pass the eye test. The reason that he's, was it $24.8 million fifth-year option wasn't picked up by Chicago was because after 4 years, they were going backwards. And Trubisky has some major flaws in his game that their offensive coaches couldn't sort out. So he goes to 6 a year. And now
let me ask you one question.
Ask me more than that.
The second I ask you this one question, you know exactly where I'm going to be going with it. Do you rate Justin Fields?
Yes.
Now, you know exactly what I'm asking this. Justin Fields was coached extremely badly last year and was made to look
terrible
because of his offensive coaches. How much of that is Justin Fields? Now let's go backwards a couple of years beyond that. Nothing had changed offensively in Chicago. How much of what we saw from Mitchell Trubisky was Trubisky's fault, and how much of it was coaching?
Oh, there's definitely got to be some blame on the coaches. You're absolutely right. I'm not trying to say that it's only on Trubisky. You know, he was overdrafted quite severely. Moving up to second overall is a joke, especially when they had Mahomes and Watson in the draft later on. But that was Chicago's move. They invested a lot in him, and then 4 years later, they're out the door, just losing everything on that roll of the dice. At the same time, there were quite serious flaws in his game. His ability to read the defense, his ability to go through progressions enough to actually hit wide open receivers, his ability to throw left is a massive concern. And those things didn't leave him in those 4 years. There was no progression as well that I saw really in this game. And so now he's had a year out basically to back up Josh Allen in Buffalo. Now, the reason it kind of stings so much for me is because there was Deshaun Watson available. And you'll know, Dave, as a team that's just gone and given up an awful lot for a franchise QB.
A snip.
You gave up an awful lot, mate. Picks and players to go and get Russell Wilson, who's 33? Yeah. There was a guy that was 7 years younger than Russell Wilson, just sitting there. He's had a year out, so that's basically adding on a year to his career if everything goes well. Who I don't think you'd have to give up as much as Denver gave up to Seattle to get him. The reason why is Deshaun Watson has a no trade clause in his contract, which means that he gets to choose where he goes rather than just gets lumbered wherever. Whoever gives the most money, basically, most picks and stuff to the Texans. So the Panthers have been sniffing around. Last year, they tried to offer a load for him. He wasn't interested. So he wasn't breaking that trade clause for Carolina. I don't think he'll do it again now. He might do it for the Saints, but they are in cap hell and don't know what they're going to do, but it'll be difficult to kind of pry him away with what they can offer. So the Steelers were in kind of the prime position to offer a couple of first-round picks, a couple of second-round picks, but no players traded. And what the Texans are going to do, they have to move off him because it's going to cost them this year to keep him. And I think that was the original kind of disappointment for me is that we had a chance to do something special and we didn't take it.
And if we are to believe what's been reported, Deshaun Watson's very keen on going to the Steelers as well. I'm going to break the habit of a lifetime and not turn every conversation into one involving the Broncos, but I am going to go back and answer your question for a moment.
Okay.
So why did we go for Wilson rather than Watson? I think first and foremost, the reason the Broncos done that is because we've been in such a bad spot with quarterbacks recently. We had to go and win the race early. So we didn't, there's no knowing on what the future was going to hold for Wilson and for Watson, and we weren't in a position where the Broncos were able to sort of wait and second guess. Because if you lose out on that race, we've got another year of having a good roster with a bad quarterback. So it's a case of, okay, suck it up, win the race early, which is what we've done. We've gone and got the best available quarterback on the market. Wilson's better than Watson, I believe.
I don't. Okay.
A year removed from the league, I think he is. I think having a year out.
We just don't know. We just don't know. At his peak, I think he's better than Wilson, but it doesn't matter.
I've always been a Wilson fan, but it's what you prefer. It's disappointing for the Steelers that they haven't gone and got Deshaun Watson, or he's at least bid from what we know. But again, the due diligence might have told them they can get by with Trubisky until they go and draft someone early.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think the bigger question is that Jimmy Garoppolo's still on the market.
That is strange, isn't it? Because he's better than Carson Wentz, but there's obviously something going on there.
He's better than Wentz. He's better than Trubisky. I mean, in terms of available quarterbacks, other than guys named Deshaun, he's probably the premier piece that's available right now.
But he's not a free agent, and Trubisky was a free agent. That was the massive difference, is that we could get Trubisky without giving up any picks. It was just signing the contract. And it's actually relatively easy as a contract. There's $7 million a year. Even if you doubled that, it's still less than what the Vikings are going to give to Kirk Cousins to stick around for another year.
Oh, yeah.
It's low for a starting quarterback in the NFL. And a 2-year deal means he is precisely a bridge quarterback. He is a guy that will hopefully not make us only win 2 games a season, but he'll be able to keep us going for a year, and then we can attack the 2023 NFL draft. Because I don't know about you, Dave, I'm finding it so difficult to get motivated to actually watch the draft class this year, because the draft feeds off quarterbacks. It feeds off that kind of energy of, is someone going to trade up for this QB? Is someone going to trade up for this QB? It's not so much about the skill players. We always look back at a draft a few years later and go, oh, why didn't we talk about Derrick Henry in the second round? Because we didn't really care about running backs. We cared about the QBs that were coming out, So, and this year, please make no bones, this is going to be worse than 2013 for QBs, this draft. So, I mean, if anything...
Is that the Eric Fisher draft?
Yeah. So, this is worse. This is the worst one in probably 20 years for a QB coming out.
What's going to be exciting is when all of the QB market is shaking itself out and there's still some QB needed teams, and seeing how many of those teams are going to reach. That's going to be the interesting part. Going back on what you mentioned about the fact that Jimmy Garoppolo is a free agent, I think a third...
He's not a free agent.
But not a free agent. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I think a third round pick gets in, but that's a different matter. I think if you're taking on all of his salary and you chuck him a third round and it's a decent third round, I think you'll potentially get him. But forget about that for a second. If we're talking just free agents, then I would rather have, I can name 2 players immediately I'd rather have rather than Mitchell Trubisky. One's Teddy Bridgewater, because I feel like Bridgewater's a better QB, lower ceiling, certainly, but in terms of genuine impact coming in and doing an immediate job, I'd rather have Bridgewater. And that's hard for me to say. There's a little lump in my throat when I do say that. But then Jameis Winston's ceiling is so high, but his floor is so low. But I'd rather roll that dice and have a little bit of a punt at it rather than just going with Trubisky. It just feels like a bit of a... Trubisky is a guy who you can lean on, is not going to lose you very many games, because the rest of your roster can win you games. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
But it just feels almost as like you guys have been a bit pedestrian. You've
Absolutely.
got your route mapped out for the next couple of years, and this just feels like a bit of a a bit of a, even if Trubisky does phenomenally well, he's still going to end up with the Jets or with someone else, down the line who's figured out that they've drafted a bad quarterback. Trubisky's future, no matter how well he does, is not in Pittsburgh.
No, but it's another stepping stone to him potentially getting a job somewhere else more full time.
That's all every quarterback wants. He's 27 and a half now, so he'll be 28 by the time sort of next season starts coming up. And these are supposedly his prime years, so he has to now go out and prove it.
Exactly.
I just feel like it's a bit of a weird move and a bit of an unexciting pedestrian move. I don't think it's a bad one, because I don't think Trubisky's as bad as everyone thinks. I don't think he's a terrible quarterback. I just think he's ordinary.
It's a bit weird how people just with absence have got such short-term memories and going, oh, well, he's going to be great. He's going to be brilliant. Look at this one game in 2018. It's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Look at the rest of it.
Absence makes the heart grow fonder.
Yeah.
The last game, what was the last game that Marcus Mariota played for the Titans? It was a loss. It was a shutout by the Broncos. It was a Joe Flacco-led Broncos that shut him out. That's how bad he was at that time. Now people look at it and go, yeah, let's give him a shot. No, it
don't get it.
Work like that.
No.
Yeah, absence makes the heart grow fonder.
I think that it was a weird situation though, because we are in a situation where our GM is going to be leaving in the next couple of months. Yeah. He's allowed to stay for the draft. He's been with the Steelers for decades, absolutely decades. Let me just finish this bit.
Why are you letting him stay for the draft?
I don't know. I don't know why we're letting him stay. But it feels like he didn't have the authority if you wanted to go for Deshaun. This move has been decided by the Rooneys, basically. They've stepped in and gone, we're going to have a new GM here next year. After this, we're letting you do this draft as a kind of farewell and thank you for your service. But we can't allow you to give up the next 2-3 years worth of draft picks for Deshaun Watson. So we can't do that until we've got the new guy in, until they've decided who they're actually going to have as the GM. They can't get that sign off, basically. So they've gone, look, it's a typical Rooney play. If there hadn't been this kind of retirement going on, then maybe they might have made this move. They've moved up before for players. They've traded stuff for players before, not a lot, but they have. But I think there was no way that even if Colbert wanted to, he would have been allowed to by the Rooneys until they've got a new GM in place. So we just hit that really bad situation where they weren't going to go for Deshaun if they had to give up any trade picks to do so.
That's bad ownership, because number one, that's on the owners.
It is on the owners.
Keeping Kevin Colbert around for the draft. If he hadn't have been around for the draft and you'd have replaced him straight away, then a definitive decision could have been made. And let's be honest, it's not too much of a surprise that Deshaun Watson might be coming back on the market. That's point number one. Point number two is poor ownership, because why the hell are you keeping a guy that you're basically firing or forcing to retire, letting him do the draft? That's ridiculous. And point number three, I'm sorry, if I'm a GM coming into a brand new job, I would rather have nothing but third, fourth, and fifth round picks and nothing else, and Deshaun Watson, than loads of picks and Mitchell Trubisky. Call me crazy if you want to, but that's the way I feel about it.
That's one school of thought.
It's an utter no-brainer for me.
Well, if you've got a chance to go for a QB in next year's draft, there's about 3 or 4 good candidates, first round prospects that are going to come out next year. So if you can get in that, you can stick out 1 year with what they've got and just plan and actually have something to plan for over this next season, then that's a good opportunity for a new GM to come in as well. At the same time, I wanted Deshaun Watson, so what can you say?
What team are we talking about?
For what?
What team are we talking about right now?
The Steelers.
What team?
The Steelers.
The Steelers. Exactly. The Steelers don't tank. The Jags tank. The Texans tank. The Jets tank. The Steelers don't tank. I'm sorry.
Well, we did in the past.
That is unacceptable.
There was a long spell between what we had. It's just one of those things, man, where I can see the route now. I can see the route. It's better than just going in with Rudolph. And it's a sensible move, because it means that after next year, if we can draft a QB, we can keep Trubisky around for 1 more year of that contract, just to let the other guys sit. So it makes perfect sense. It's a really shrewd move. It's just, as a fan, I want to be competing all the time, and we could have competed if we'd brought in Deshaun Watson.
Saying it's better than Rudolph is like saying getting hit by a car is better than getting stabbed. Still not great.
I'm sure there are groups of Broncos fans, Dave, that are just on like message boards talking about how good Drew Lock is and how good Teddy Bridgewater is. They're these kind of rose-tinted glasses guys that I've seen them all last few weeks. Yep. Just about Mason Rudolph's great. He's going to be fine for us. Why are you saying anything bad about him? Now they're going to say the same thing about Mitch Trubisky. He's going to be great. If you don't like him, you're not a Steelers fan. Like, no, if you have eyes and if you want to have the best team, then you need to have other opinions than that. You need to be sensible about these things. And you can't just blindly say that whoever's playing is the best person in that role. You don't have to shout abuse at them. You don't have to, message them on Twitter and say you suck. But you can at least vent your opinion in a message board with other fans. Or with your friends.
There are always people with unpopular opinions. There are Chiefs fans that think, Patrick Mahomes is a down-to-earth young man with fantastic dress sense. We all know it's bollocks. That's not true. But the simple fact is, a couple of people on Twitter voicing their opinion is not indicative of an entire fan base.
No, but what we need to do, what we need to do is what we've been doing since this move. Is we've picked up Trubisky, so okay, hopefully now we don't have to worry about picking up a QB in the draft. Please don't draft a QB, Pittsburgh, please. But we have just spent 70 million in the last couple of days on our offensive line. We've brought in Mason Cole from the Vikings, we've brought in James Daniels from the Bears, and we've re-signed Chuck Okorafor. Yeah. So that's 3 players, 70 million on the line. We've got 2 other rookies in there as well, and a first-round pick from 2 years ago. And we've got a chance to strengthen the lines further in the draft. So they have been addressing the issues. They've re-signed other players as well. So Montravius Adams, I was blanking a defensive tackle. So they are making moves. It's positive what's going on at the moment from the Steelers. I'm very happy. It's just, if you have a chance to have an elite QB, you know, Dave, more than most people, how precious it is to have an elite / Hall of Fame QB playing for you, because you have a chance to win it all. And if you don't have it, you're nothing. Doesn't matter how much else you've got. You can't win it all unless you've got a good QB. Look at the Bengals, right? With Joe Burrow and no O-line, they got to the Super Bowl. No O-line, literally no O-line. I mean, it was just him and some empty grass, and he still managed to get there. Andrew Luck turned a team that had won 1 game and got them to 12 wins in 1 season. The QB is everything.
Last year, the Broncos had an second-team All-Pro left tackle, offensive line that was top 10 in the NFL, had a dual threat running backs who were potentially the best in the AFC at the time in terms of impact and yardage. For me, were a top 3 safety in the league, one of the best defenses in the entire league. But guess what? We were rubbish because we had Teddy Bridgewater playing quarterback, and that's not easy for me to say. But it's 100% true. It's absolutely 100% true. I put all of this blame down to ownership. I think it's poor ownership. I think it's poor decision making, and I think you've put yourself in a no-win position. You have to be aggressive when it comes to when it comes to getting a quarterback, and you have to go out and get the right guy. I don't think you've done that. I don't think there's a lot of doom and gloomers saying that it's the end of the world and the Steelers are only going to win a couple of games. I think they'll be fine because he'll get you through enough games. But you had the opportunity to go and get a guy who's going to, it would have been really irritating if you went and got Deshaun Watson, because it meant that you'd have had your quarterback for the next 15 years. And after having Roethlisberger for so long, that would have really irritated
18 years of Roethlisberger straight onto Deshaun. I'd even taken the suspension. I mean, if you look at what's happened in the past, I mean, Ezekiel Elliott had, 6-game suspension? Wasn't even charged of anything. Roethlisberger had 6 games as well. So even if he'd lost the entire next season, you'd still have a guaranteed elite QB in the locker room. What they're doing now is they're going for next year's draft. I'm hoping, please don't, not Kenny Pickett, please. And they are looking at the class that's coming out and going, okay, we can deal with a year, we can strengthen everything, and we can be in place, and we can then aggressively, as in trade up. We have identified 2 or 3 QBs that we could slot in because you have to have more than one. You can't just go all in for one QB. You have to identify at least 2 or 3 in the draft. We need to get up to at least the second position in the draft to go and take one of these QBs, and we'll be happy with one of them because we know that they'll work. So there has to be a lot of work going in advance to that.
If you're going to mortgage your future on moving up to top 2, because no matter who your quarterback is, you're not picking in the top 5. The roster's too good for that.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to have to mortgage your future and move up to 2nd, 3rd, 4th overall, something like that. Well, why not just use that draft capital that you're going to have to spend in order to
I know.
go in and get into Deshaun Watson? It doesn't make sense.
It's not my choice, Dave.
You're trading for an unknown quantity. I just don't get it, man. I'm sorry, I just don't get it, Jim. I really don't. And listen.
But if you get a Joe Burrow, if you get a Justin Herbert, if you get a Patrick Mahomes, then it's all worth it, right? You can still get them from the draft. That's where they come from.
You can. Absolutely.
So
most good quarterbacks do not come in the first round, though. A lot of quarterbacks who are successful in the league now, although there's
it's where they go. It's where they go more than kind of what position they go. It's where they go to.
But then, if you look at players who've gone in later rounds, Dak went in later round, Russell Wilson went in later rounds.
Into a great situation. Into great situations.
Into later rounds. So
if they've gone first round, if they've gone to the Jags or they've gone to the Browns, they'd have struggled.
You make a fair point.
It's where they go to. Look at Mac Jones. He went into the perfect situation in New England. Perfect for him. Proper scheme QB.
I counter your argument with, I was going to say with Sam Darnold, but he's been in a car crash in New England. Baker Mayfield, he went to a nice settle.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
But that's it. So I'm happy with the moves they're making, apart from they missed a trick because you just don't know what you're getting in the draft. You have no idea. It's all about potential. And if you've got a chance to take something that's already proven, you should take it. Just my opinion.
They didn't miss a trick. They scored a catastrophic own goal.
Not if it all works out next year, all right? Not if it works out next year.
If you know what, if it all works out next year, then it's through blind luck more than anything. It's nothing to do with planning. I'll take luck, Well, I'll take Andrew luck.
I would take Andrew.
But the simple fact is, it's not through strategy. It's through poor planning and keeping a bloody GM to let him draft. What GM's going to want to come in with a draft class from someone else? I'm sorry, that's not on. It's nonsense. It's utter nonsense. This is the kind of crap you expect from, I'm not going to say which teams, but certain teams you'd expect to do this, not the Steelers.
Anyway, it's all about loyalty with the Steelers. So yeah, they're leaving for some reason.
Well, more for you. That's what I say.
Yeah, all right, Dave. All right. Anyway, thanks very much, guys, for watching. We'll be back very soon with more videos. But until then, cheers.